Good morning, everyone. This is John with Gun Deals. Today we are talking about the next generation super budget red dot sight from Sig Sauer. Fortunately, this is from their optics division and not from their firearm or IED division. But before we get into that, go ahead and smash that like button like I smashed an energy drink before writing this script. Also, leave a comment, it helps us out. Full disclosure, I don't have any relationship with Sig, but I do like their optics. I paid full retail price, which at launch is just north of $1 bill, which is a sweet spot for a lot of people looking for a budget optic that doesn't completely suck. Now, the Sig Romeo MSR Gen 2 doesn't suck. In fact, it's pretty good for a reduced feature set red dot. Getting into basics, we still have a 20mm window and an aimpoint style body that thankfully takes aimpoint mounts. The body itself has been updated and it's much more sleek looking with recessed turrets and a less blocky shape. The body itself is some form of aluminum, which is fine. These 20mm red dots tend to be very durable just by design, even if they aren't using advanced materials. You can see me curb stomp the old Romeo 5 with the amount of force that would have decimated 100 lead and steel Prometheans. Bodies are tough, the glass and electronics are usually the weak point, and if you're going to have one of these optics die, usually the electronics are going to be the first thing to go. Talking about the mount that ships with the new MSR Gen 2, they just downgraded the old Romeo 5 mount, and like a child that's not exactly your favorite, it's getting the older siblings' hand-me-downs. It's a pretty bad mount. It attaches your red dot to your rifle, and that's it. Fortunately, the low mount is actually really good and also updated considerably from the previous generation. So far, I have mostly used the low mount, and moving forward, I will be using aftermarket mounts if I need to raise it up.
To the right.
The basic mount is just kind of trash. There's very little contact surface, there's no recoil lug, and there's a very thin crossbolt. It kind of does all of the things you wouldn't want it to do. Now, getting into controls of the MSR Gen 2, we have exposed but flush-mounted windage and elevations in, I believe, half MOA increments. They're pretty easy to adjust with most things that you probably have on you at the range. Other than that, you have a rotary dial that doubles as the battery tray for your 2032 battery. Now you have a total of 14 settings, starting with off, 2 night vision settings, 10 daylight settings, and then another off setting at the top. So at both extremes, you have an off setting, which is kind of neat, I guess, but I'm not sure how useful that is in reality. Now, battery life is rated at a slightly reduced 40,000 hours on the MSR Gen 2, but importantly, that is not comboed with auto on and auto off capability. The optic is constant on, and personally, that is fine. On the upper settings, you're still looking at a couple years of runtime off of a single battery, so it's not much to worry about. Just keep in mind that it does not have that feature. The MSR Gen 2 comes in either red or green dot variations. Here I have the red version, so let's go ahead and talk about the dot and glass. I think it's pretty good. Almost tint-free on the red version. That reduced notch filter might have something to do with the lower battery rating, but that is pure speculation on my part. The image is flat, non-magnified, and there isn't much, if any, warp to speak of. So the glass is pretty good. Not EOTech level, but then again, you aren't paying those prices either. Talking about the dot itself, to my normal eyes, it's a crisp, clean 2 MOA dot. To those of you affected by the TISM, specifically the astigmatism, your mileage will vary. Now let's talk about the night vision performance. Is the Gen 2 better than the original? Actually, yeah, kind of. Now keep in mind, this is mostly for the lulz. Most people aren't looking for a $100 red dot for their passive aiming on their $3,000 tubes, but just to be thorough. In anything other than truly dark conditions, meaning minimal stars, no moon, the light transmission is only okay, and I mean just okay. The 2 nighttime brightness settings also work, but they are a little on the bright side, but again workable. In urban environments with power or mixed lighting environments, full moon, full starlight, etc., it's okay. No one in their right mind should tell you that this is a good or ideal passive aiming optic, but it can work. Now, talking about actually using the thing, so far I've only used it in 0 or -degree weather out here in South Dakota, so I can confirm that the optic will survive freezing cold temps followed by being mounted to a superheated gas tube on my Wasser 10. In terms of function, it's going to function like any other 2 MOA dot. You should be very familiar with this at this point. It gets bright enough for snow and sunshine, and the dot looks relatively clean.
Oh, uh-oh. Felt like I got bolt lock back, because I did. failure to eject. Huh, it was stuck on the extractor.
When it comes to actually using the thing, it functions as any other 2MOA dot. It gets bright enough for snow and sunshine, the dot itself looks clean, though don't stare at it, that's my issue. It's a small window which not everyone will like, but just stay target focused and it won't bug you too much. So as a Gen 2, I like the updated body and the basic feature set. For the money, it's currently a few bucks more expensive than the outgoing Generation 1, but it's also new, so give it a year or a couple of good sales and it's going to be right at the same price as the old model. In terms of how it stacks up to the Romeo 5 Gen 2, that's a bit trickier of a value proposition. The Romeo 5 Gen 2 is about $30 more expensive, has a couple extra features, and actually comes with a mount that isn't an embarrassment to engineering. So if you want the MSR Gen 2 and not use the low mount, you should get a different mount, which is going to put you at the same or a higher cost than the Romeo 5 Gen 2. The only real reasons to go with the MSR, in my opinion, is if you want to use the low mount, or you just really prefer the rotary dial, both valid and can save you a few bucks. Overall, I like it quite a bit. I think the value is pretty good on the market in general. I think the Romeo 5 is the slightly better buy for most people, but for some of you out there, the MSR will do just fine. As a Gen 2, it's different enough, improved enough that I actually mostly like it as it is. When retail pricing drops another 20 to 30 bucks, then it's going to be a very attractive option on the market for right at $1 bill. But with all that out of the way, gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think of the MSR Gen 2 in the comments down below. And with all that out of the way, thank you once again for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you in the next one. Peace off.